Thanks for tuning in to this new show on Financial Advisor Television with Katie Braden, focused on video marketing for financial advisors. If you're not familiar with Katie, she is the founder of Innovating Advice, the industry's leading video marketing platform for financial advisors. Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. And thank you so much for your team's encouragement there at FATV for getting this show off the ground. We've been talking about it for a while, so we are here. We are launching. So today's show is all about just taking it all in stride. So we are here chatting about everything dealing with framing, composition, your background, whether you're looking to improve your virtual meeting setup or you're starting to introduce video in your business. Now, this is the first in a series that could probably go on forever, but initially, we're really focusing on all of the elements in a free ebook I just released on 8 steps to get started with video. So this is really focused on helping financial advisors better connect with their existing clients, grow their brand and their authority in the profession, and to better attract their ideal clients. But we know when we're starting anything new, you all have 101 things to do on your list. So this show is breaking down everything in that ebook piece by piece. Each week, we'll just be focusing on one specific area so that you can go ahead and take action. Because we know we overestimate what we can do in the short term and we underestimate what we can do in the long term. So just these little steps each week, before you know it, in a few months, you'll look back and be like, wow, the little things really do make a big difference. So today, in the first sort of 10 minutes or so, I'm really going to be giving some actionable advice and then bringing on some friends, including Jay, bringing him back to sort of get their thoughts, because it's good to learn from other people as well. So really, we're going to be looking at what most advisors are doing. A lot of people are still doing virtual meetings. So we'll look at your framing, composition, and background when you're inside, really being in your office doing virtual meetings. And then we'll look at maybe flexing some of those rules if you're actually leveraging video, recording video for clients or marketing. And then we'll look at some of those rules if you're actually going to be brave and go outside for a change of scenery. So really thinking first, framing and composition. So what does that mean? It's really about where you are framed in your shot. And I have a degree in photography, so spent a lot of time doing this. And I have to say, one of the things that has been most entertaining to me throughout the pandemic is how much everyone seems to love their ceilings. So continuing to see this because I work with advisors all day long, let's see a little bit less ceilings. So generally, when you think about framing and composition for these virtual meetings, you want to make it feel as close to an in-person meeting sitting across from a desk or a conference table, sort of those elements that you would normally see there. So here you can see I've got head, shoulders. I know I've got too many hand movements, but you want to see a little bit of that because that's what you would normally see. So when you're thinking about your framing and maybe playing with your webcam or your laptop, think about tic-tac-toe. So take your screen and pretend there's 2 horizontal lines, 2 vertical lines, and you're playing tic-tac-toe. Now, what you want to do is you want to have that top line here be sort of right here. So your eyes just above it. And for a lot of people, I'm seeing a whole lot of meetings where I'm talking with advisors and they're like way down here. Now, if you think about kind of how that comes across, there's a lot of almost subconscious messaging that can come through there, but that doesn't convey a position of confidence and competence, which you very much want to come through. So having your, face up at the top, your eyes right there, and making sure that your camera is positioned so that it is right at eye level or slightly above. So we don't really want to be staring directly up the nose or directly at chins. So for a lot of people, and there's been some very creative ways of lifting up your laptop or your webcam, but get it on a stand so that it's up. And that also is so good for your body because we shouldn't actually be hunched over our computers all day long. So when it's at eye level, your doctor, chiropractor will love you for it because that helps you maintain that good posture throughout the day. And that even comes through in your presentation. So you'll notice I said kind of make sure you're centered for these virtual meetings. And another way to think about it, if you're like, I don't really know where those lines go, generally always make sure you have more room below your chin than above your head when you're framing. So you should kind of be right in there. Now you might be thinking, well, what goes out here? And this is where you can get a bit more creative. But generally, you want to make sure that you don't really have anything right behind your head. So, depending on where I'm standing, where the camera's at, like I generally don't have anything right behind my head. And it's actually good to have things that go off the screen a little bit. So, sometimes I'll see people kind of try to fit everything in the frame, which you can do. But if you have it go off the screen, that actually serves to draw your eyes in. And when you are meeting with clients and prospects, you want to make sure that you are the key subject in the frame. And that, maybe you can use lines like even the lines on the bookcase, whether you realize it or not, that is drawing the eye in. So it also, I'm actually just in a little corner here, but you don't have any idea how big this space is. So it can look bigger by doing that as well. Try not to have anything coming out of your head unless you're wearing like a cool fastener or hat. But a lot of times that can be really distracting. And so the conversations that you're having with clients can often be, emotional. They're sharing their goals and dreams and maybe sharing things they didn't even realize themselves. But if you have some of these distracting things, like if you're, positioned way down here or you have a lamp coming out of your head, that can actually be much more distracting to them than they realize. And because, people's minds tend to wander, they can get sort of fixated on stuff like that. So again, try not to have anything right around your head, have stuff kind of going off the screen wherever possible, and make sure that you are in that sort of top third with more space below your chin than above your head. So I did also touch on backgrounds in there and kind of what you should have. And one thing I also wanted to touch on is a lot of people are using that Zoom blur. Now, this is a real background. It's all real books and stuff. So I have, a professional camera that really most people don't need. But a lot of people try to emulate that with that Zoom blur background. Now, again, I mentioned how these distractions can come into play. And if you're as animated as I am, right, with hand gestures everywhere, that's probably going to be very distracting to people trying to listen to your message, which is so important. And the information you're conveying to people is so important. So I really encourage advisors not to use that Zoom blur background for that distracting purpose. And also because people can, again, sort of in the back of their mind, start to wonder, well, what are they hiding? Like, what shouldn't I be seeing? And so I actually put a poll out on LinkedIn recently and I asked other people's thoughts because, again, I'm not the be all end all, but a lot of people kind of said the same thing. But I did get comments around people saying, look, sometimes, younger advisors are working with high net worth clients or people are, living in situations or working in a bedroom and they don't want people to see that. And I totally get that. And I was in that situation as well. During the pandemic, I had to move my office into the corner of our bedroom. I mean, tiny, tiny corner. So I had, I don't know, like 4 feet by 3 feet, maybe. I don't even think it was that big, but I made it work to kind of, have some light coming in. So whatever you have to do, try to create a background that does work for you. And that's kind of what these sessions are about. I'll do another one of these in the future. So if you want to come on and be one of the people to get some live coaching to kind of say, look, I've got a tricky situation in a small office. I can't really turn my desk around. We can get creative with that. But also know that so much of it comes through with your confidence. Again, think about the start of the pandemic when, all of the talk shows went virtual and celebrities were working from home. I mean, people had terrible backgrounds and crap in their backgrounds. And, people that have tens of millions of dollars had horrible backgrounds. So a lot of it comes down to your confidence and knowing that it's so much more about you and your knowledge and your ability to connect with clients and prospects than it is about, whether you have a bed in your background. People get that now. It's okay. We appreciate that you're working from home and hopefully giving you more flexibility. So now we want to look at Well, what if you're actually recording videos? So it's not about meeting virtually. You're like, hey, I want to start leveraging video in my business and put video on my website and social media and build my brand. Well, you can get more creative there, and it's often good to get more creative there. So by that, I mean going a bit off center. So again, thinking about those three lines, you can use those rule of thirds and actually kind of position yourself in other places. And that can work out really great if you're going to be adding some editing, having more space to, add graphics or add language, use that white space over here. Or you can get really close to the camera if you want to lure people in, with a message, grab their attention. It doesn't always have to be so cut and dry positioned. Closer, further away, you can have more hand gestures. Just know if you're doing that, you can kind of bend the rules a lot more in those situations. So now thinking about that, going outside. And again, this would be recording videos. And this is such a great thing to do because so many people are nervous about creating videos, right? It's not a natural talent for a lot of people in financial services. And so I always recommend people start by, standing up and go outside. And especially people that love, hiking or biking, or you're on the golf course or fishing or anything you do outside where you're really in your element. And because this profession is all about building relationships, people love seeing you in your element. So you'll feel better because your brain is, a little bit more relaxed. You're not thinking about things so intensely. So if you're thinking about videos other than TikTok or Instagram reels, make sure that you are holding your camera in landscape mode. And we hold our phones, in portrait mode and so often record in portrait mode. But if you upload that to YouTube or Vimeo, then it ends up just being that little sliver of the frame with huge black, columns on either side. So record just like you're watching this here, record in landscape mode. And again, just make sure that you're holding your camera. Smartphones are brilliant for this. You don't have to go buy another camera. Hold your smartphone, again, at eye level or above. Just make sure, again, you're keeping that good posture and you've got that nice eye level. Selfie sticks are great things. I know it sounds silly, but thankfully they're very inexpensive. Hold those and then show a bit of your background. Because when you're out there, that will grab people's attention, especially as you start to put videos out on social media and everything. Seeing that change of scenery, people go, oh, what's going on here? Or if you're a golfer and you specialize in working with golfers, that's going to grab people's attention just based on where you're at. So again, think about that rule of thirds, but you can play around, again, being off center a little bit, being a little bit closer. You have more flexibility there. But the main thing is making sure you're in portrait mode for most of them. So that's sort of a short and sweet overview of something. All of these things can be done for free, which is the other brilliant thing about it. So often advisors want to get started with video and, start adding up the costs of production and lighting and editing and audio and cameras. Framing and composition is all totally free. So I'd love to see any changes you make with where you're currently at and how you sort of adopt some of these rules, see how it maybe helps your confidence going forward. And with that, I would love to bring on Elliot. Hey, Elliot.
Hey, Katie.
So I'm going to bring it this way. That way we can see your framing as well. And full disclosure, Elliot has already gone through my 3-month video creation masterclass for advisors and has done amazingly. He has fully embraced video, just did an 18-minute video on Roth IRA conversions, which is super valuable. Elliot, you have such a great presence on video. So as you kind of think back to what you've learned throughout this and how you've adjusted some of your framing, what are some thoughts that you'd share with other people?
I think just getting comfortable on camera, and you did a good job bringing that out in me and just recording wherever you are. And then from there, just being able to adjust it as you go and make small tweaks, and they can make a big difference. Like the screen you're looking at right now, I just tilted my desk maybe 45 degrees from where it was before.
Yeah, and that made a big difference because you used to have a little bit, more, and then we kind of worked together and saw that there was an opening there in your background for your logo.
Yeah, which it's not perfectly in frame, but I also leave an empty wall for other recording I do back here.
Yeah. So and you have different angles in your room there as well.
I do. So for client calls, I have this view, and for recording, I have different setups.
Yeah, and that's another thing that a lot of people have been working on as well, is to kind of say, okay, even within, a fairly small space, how can you get creative just to have that change of scenery? And I know when you do the videos that you put out there, you also use that, offset technique, right? You're usually a bit off center. You keep all that space for all your great graphics and information.
Exactly.
Any other thoughts on framing, or because you've done it all, you've done inside, outside, different views, client meetings, videos.
Outside's hard. I'd probably get started inside if you're trying to go down the video path. I would definitely do inside just because it's easier to control lighting, easier to control what's going around you. Outside's a little bit tough.
Yep. I totally agree with that. Well, Elliot, I'll probably bring you back on in a minute. I'm going to bring Jay on here. Jay Coulter, how are you? And I think I've got a little bit of a glitch with Jay's internet here. Elliot, do you see that as well? Yes. Okay, I'm going to bring Jay off, and I think we've got Mary there. This is always the fun of live bits. I'll take Mary off, but here's the thing. I actually love it when things don't go perfectly. And this is one of the things that I really, really love about live stream. And I encourage advisors to do live stream because it's fascinating how it kind of forces you to go with the flow and realize that everybody knows that things go wrong. Internet goes out, technology goes out, like all kinds of things can go wrong. And it's totally okay. People understand that and people are going to forgive you. So it's a good way, even if you stream to a channel that nobody's on, it can be a good way to actually get practice with things and realize that not only are your videos never going to be perfect, they shouldn't be perfect, because that's why I focus so much on easy and authentic video. And by that, when I say easy, I mean not spending thousands of dollars, renting a studio, spending months working on a script, reading a script from a teleprompter. I talk with a lot of advisors that have gone down that path, and there's absolutely a place for it. And I know amazing people in the profession that do it. But when that's where you're getting started, so often people watch those videos back and they're like, well, that doesn't look like me. It doesn't feel like me. They were so nervous. So that's why I work with advisors on how do you get comfortable. Elliot mentioned that, get comfortable first. So getting comfortable on video, doing it easily. You can record on your phone, on using all of the tools that you already have. Just get started. That's why the ebook is 8 steps to get started. And then the authentic piece, when I say that, I know that's kind of one of those words that gets thrown around there, but that's showing up as you are. And I know I started in the profession very young. I worked for my mother, and people always said, oh, that's really sweet. You brought your daughter to work today. I was like, well, technically, yes, but also I am competent and capable. So I know how challenging it can be to try to prove yourself in the profession, whether you're a career changer or you're young or, you're a minority. It can be really challenging, but people, even high net worth people, want to connect with other people. So I really encourage advisors to kind of break down that professional persona and show up as you are. That's why I love people going outside and sharing your hobbies and being in your element. And it doesn't always have to be, looking perfect and sounding perfect. Just be the person that you are whenever you're live in front of a client or prospect, or out to dinner with a client or prospect. So with that, I'm going to try to bring Jay on again. Jay Coulter,
So
how
what
are
was
you?
going on before?
I think it was just kind of freezing. I think I gave you the internet that I have been dealing with for
How
the
about
last few
that?
months.
Well, it happens, and you do have to roll with it.
You do. And it's okay, right?
That's right.
And Jay, you do a whole lot of interviews with all kinds of people in the profession. So you are also constantly seeing people's framing, how they're showing up on video. What are some of your thoughts on sort of some of the typical setups that you see and where there might be room for improvement?
Well, admittedly, Katie, I've learned everything from you, so this is a little bit self-serving, but not over-engineering your studio. I do find, especially when I'm bringing on portfolio managers or economists that have no technical setup skills, and then during the lockdowns where they didn't have a tech team around them, they seem to have more anxiety about their setup than the actual content that we were discussing. So if I'm interviewing somebody, I try and create that buffer beforehand so I can get them comfortable and they can see how things are set up. My number one goal as an audiophile is to make sure folks have a microphone because, in my opinion, that makes all the difference. And then I'm jealous of your setup, and we're going to re-engineer our studio here in the coming weeks. I like the depth perception that you have there. I think that makes a difference. If you look at some of the industry thought leaders in the studios they have, you can really get some good ideas.
Yeah, you can get some great ideas. And even thinking, I don't watch CNBC, but when the whole meme stock thing was going on, my husband was watching CNBC and I came downstairs and I was just cracking up. Like, I think I actually took some video and screenshots on my phone because they had like actual billionaires on. And one guy, I have no idea who he was, but he's live on CNBC. He was, I don't know, 174 years old. And he was like looking over there the entire time, like with the camera here, and he's like writing on stuff. And I just kept thinking, I'm like, these are people with kind of all the resources in the world and how terrible their setups are and lack of comfort. And I get it, right? But they're still welcome on CNBC. So I say that to say, don't put so much pressure on that, right? Make sure that you're showing up and just keep practicing and getting better like anything.
So, Katie, you do have a question in the studio. And if any viewers do have a question, feel free to just put it in the comment section on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're watching. And this question from an anonymous user, they want to know, what is a great mic? What is your advice, Katie?
Oh, and we're going to have a session on that coming up. So I'll answer that now, but just so everyone knows, every week we're going to hyper focus on one area. And so whoever this is, if you want to come on for live coaching, maybe we'll do audio next week. I haven't laid it all out yet. Then we can actually kind of do an audio test. So there are a few great microphones. During the pandemic, it was hard. So this is an ATR 2100. And I think it's like $70. It works great. I've had no issues with it. It's super portable if I'm traveling. Blue Yetis are also really great. And the main thing I would say, because supply chain issues and some things are in stock and some things aren't, go on Amazon and Google USB microphone. So that's the key thing. I still see people with headsets a lot, and I get that. But to me, it still sounds like you're beaming down to NASA back in the 70s. Like, I haven't actually heard a really great headset. And Jay, as an audiophile, would you agree with that?
Without a doubt. And headsets, they just, and I have clients that use them when we produce their shows. They just don't look the way you want them to look.
Yeah. And I there's still something kind of staticky that comes through there.
Yeah. And I spent a lot of money on this microphone by design because I wanted that to be the centerpiece, because I was a podcaster before we ever did video. But you don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars on a good microphone and still get good quality, to your point. And Katie, you have another question.
I think I was just say the Blue Yeti I looked up last night. I think it's on sale, right? It's like 31% off on Amazon right now. It's like $69 or $79. So not a big, I would say huge ROI for the difference it makes.
Next question is from Carlo Vale. Will there be a focus on video recording and video editing software?
There will. Thank you, Carlo. Absolutely. So one of my hands down, my favorite step one editing software is called Descript. And so I teach this a lot in my workshops and masterclass, and it's brilliant, like absolutely brilliant. And they're coming out with a huge upgrade in the next month or two. And it's amazing for captions. You can literally, this is going to sound crazy, you can actually edit a video as easily as editing a Word doc. As in, it auto transcribes, it looks like a Word doc, you can move things around, delete where you messed up. It is amazing. So yes, one of these sessions is absolutely going to be focused on diving into that. And if you want to know what the other topics are going to be, head to innovatingadvice.com and you'll see that ebook right there. It's a free download, so you can see what all of the topics coming up are going to be.
Next question. What type of camera? And I think the spirit of this question, Katie, is that's the most challenging thing for most people when they get started. I know it was for me, and you and I met after I was already up and running, and you changed my thinking about cameras pretty dramatically. What are your thoughts around a camera?
Well, I'd like to hear what your thought was and how it changed.
Yeah, so I bought an expensive camera. I beat my head against a wall trying to get the expensive camera to work well, especially when I was interviewing high-profile guests. And right now I'm talking to you through an iPhone. No problems.
Yes. And iPhones are amazing, truly. Like I mentioned, I got my degree in photography, so I know good cameras. And still to this day, I am shocked at the quality of iPhones. So those work brilliantly. So the camera I have, which again, nobody needs just because my background and what I do is it's like a big Sony DSLR. So, one of those chunkier cameras, not necessary. Truly, Logitech makes great cameras. So many people that do videos like the Logitech 1080p. I'm going to bring Elliot on again. Elliot, what is your camera?
I have a Logitech Brio, so it's one of the higher end Logitechs.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew there was a Logitech in there, but they're great. And Logitech's been around for a long time. They work well. You can have different wide angle lenses. But yeah, if you want to go outside or you want to even record videos in your office, smartphones are amazing. Otherwise, my MacBook Pro, the camera on there, just the built-in webcam is fabulous. Good. Is that all the questions, Jay? Thank you for keeping an eye on that. And Stephen, hello, wellness coach. Love it. Get outside, exercise. Stephen is wonderful. She works with advisors on wellness. So if that's one of your things, because that's also a thing that's come out, of the pandemic, but just life in general, is some advisors do say, look, I don't feel comfortable on camera, right? Like people that don't actually feel comfortable in their own skin, or so much stress and people have gotten out of shape and life gets in the way. Just since she's here, I absolutely want to give a shout out to Stephen, who runs Grow Wealthy, WELLTHY. She's wonderful. Well, Jay, we are almost coming up on half an hour. I want to make sure that we do keep these shows focused for a half an hour. People can grab their coffee, grab their lunch, come, hopefully get some great takeaways. Thank you to all of you that participated in the chat, that joined us, or even those of you that are watching the recording. And Jay, thank you again to you and your team at FATV for having us on.
Excellent, Katie. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thanks, Elliot.